So let's go back to the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, which has now wrapped up for the day with Bosasa's former IT manager, Leon van Tonder, completing his testimony. ENCA's Aaron Bates is there and joins us live now. So, Aaron, let's start with Leon van Tonder, and I guess it's easier to do that because his testimony was not that long. It was quite brief, wasn't it? It focused mainly on the probe that was being undertaken by the SIU, Special Investigating Unit, and the role that he says he played in trying to cover the tracks, as it were.
Yes, he said that in 2008, when the SIU was investigating Bosasa, he met with Gavin Watson and Angelo Agrizzi and the lawyers for the company. And after that meeting, which was very brief itself, they went into the basement parking lot of the lawyers' offices. And there, he says he was issued an instruction to go and clear up or delete evidence in Bosasa's servers, amongst Bosasa's data, that might actually incriminate the company over its contracts with the Department of Correctional Services, which Van Tonder says he then did even though he knew it was wrong, directly implicating himself in destroying evidence and potentially defeating the ends of justice. But he gave us some insight to us as well into the company culture at Bosasa and its subsidiaries, describing Gavin Watson as a very intimidating man, as someone whose word was law, and as someone who you really didn't cross. And not only did he do that, but he gave us some insight too into Angelo Agrizzi's relationship when things were going well between him and Gavin Watson, saying, for example, that when he was moved about and had fallen out of favor with the seniors at the company, Agrizzi threatened him with suspension and losing his job, and also then put him on unpaid, well, I'm not sure if it was unpaid leave, but certainly on a suspension for 2 months.
And he had a lot to say about how Gavin Watson ran operations there at Bosasa, and as you say, saying that his word was law and his word was final, and a very intimidating man. Is that why he says he did things that he now agrees that were not proper to be done, such as deleting evidence?
Yes, he did, and he said that it was really fear that motivated him to follow out this instruction that was issued to delete evidence. And he said that in his statement, which he'd signed subsequent to that deletion process, he'd indicated that there was normal data maintenance or data maintenance that was happening at Bosasa, and he was then asked by Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo if this was something ordinary, that he would normally have to sign a kind of sworn affidavit on a normal deletion process. He said this was very distinct and unusual. It was something that was done at the instruction of Angelo Agrizzi, and that what they'd done was, in and amongst a so-called ordinary process of data cleanup, they'd also gone through keyword searches to find documents related to correctional services contracts and then delete those. And yet he found 2 very important documents on tender specifications, which he says he then copied onto hard drives and CDs and kept for years afterward. And there, Tulasi, is where we really saw the lawyer's hat of the chairperson here, Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, the judge's hat rather. He needled Van Tonder on that, asking him what exactly were his motivations. And he started out quite sort of softly. This is Van Tonder saying, it just felt wrong in my heart to do these deletions, and therefore I decided to make these copies. But with some more pressing and cornering from the chairperson here, he really said that he was doing it to protect himself and to ensure that he hadn't, in fact, deleted all of these critical documents, because he knew that the SIU was conducting an investigation into Bosasa.
So, and before we heard from Leon van Tonder, we heard from Richard Leroux, and from the name dropping that happened there, it sounded a bit like a roll call of either a cabinet meeting or cabinet Lekgotla meeting, which is underway, or perhaps the who's who in our society, including a chief magistrate.
Yes, Desmond Nair there, named by LaRue in terms of receiving maintenance and upgrades, or it should be the other way around. First the upgrades, so CCTV cameras, fences and lighting for various properties for these many people, and then upgrades and continued maintenance of those services, of those different facilities at the properties. And you're quite right, I had to actually write down the roll call of different names here. Some of them we've heard before at this inquiry to us, for example, Nomvula Mokonyane, LaRue saying that her Gauteng property received upgrades, and this was all at the instruction of Gavin Watson, who has insistence that if she shouted basically that the Bosasa Special Projects Unit should jump. Then Gwede Mantashe, 3 properties, 2 of which are in the Eastern Cape. Dudu Mieni's Richards Bay property, which received upgrades. Of course, Vincent Smith, who we've heard about before. That magistrate you've mentioned, Desmond Nair. Mbulelo Ginkana, who is from Prasa. And then Tabang Makwetla, the Deputy Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development. What an irony that is. And then Linda MT, of course, of Correctional Services. But LaRue really didn't go into the details of the financials, besides to say that Bosasa paid for it, and they were given strict instructions to never wear any branded uniforms or use branded vehicles when going to these various properties. So this corroborating some of the evidence from Angelo Agrizzi and really raising some very serious questions, not only for senior politicians, including 2 sitting ministers in President Cyril Ramaphosa's cabinet, but also a member of the judiciary.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a day ago or so, I think it was, that the Chief Justice was quoted as saying that no member of the judiciary had been implicated, and 24 hours later we're talking a completely different story. Do we know anything, Erin, about what other witnesses still to come, and whether it's still related to state capture as it manifests through the activities of Bosasa?
Well, not for certain, but there is generally a mood of anticipating more Bosasa witnesses here at the Commission of Inquiry into allegations of state capture. We really have seen since the beginning of 2019 a shift in the focus of the inquiry from the Guptas, from Duduzane Zuma and his father, the former President Jacob Zuma, and their business associates, to now the work of Bosasa and the Watsons, another dynasty in South African political life and in business too. And interesting to hear that Lindsay Watson, daughter of Gavin Watson, also came up today in LaRue's testimony, being accused of pressurizing LaRue to sign a statement incriminating only Angelo Agrizzi and those special projects to upgrade and maintain all of those houses, and leave out the likes of Gavin Watson and directors at Bosasa.
All right, thank you so much. That's ENCA's Erin Bates live for you at the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. She's back at that commission tomorrow when the commission continues.